We're on. So guys, this is Lou Martin one more time, and I have persuaded this gentle soul to put her time in my hands here for a little while and share her amazing story. I'm blessed to have Joanna Parsons here, who I've been connected with through a mutual friend, Marianne Adams. And Joanne has an amazing spiritual story to tell. She's a wonderful teacher and a new friend. Joanne, take it away.
Hi, Lou. Well, thank you very, very much for inviting me.
Thank you. And, Joanna, I left the A off there. My apologies. Yeah. We go.
Yeah, well, people call me Joe.
There we go. There we go.
Yeah.
So yes, we're just having a lovely chat about your Christian mysticism school and your colleagues and a dozen other things before we turn the camera on here. So any of that you want to pick up with or talk about, how you got involved in teaching what you're teaching and how that's happening?
Yes. Well, there are three of us, Viv, Tim, and I, who have created this School of Christian Mysticism. And really, I've for a very, very long time been on a Sufi path.
Nice.
And but at the same time, and that's since I don't know, 20, 30 years or something like that. I can't remember now.
Right.
And at the same time, attending an Anglican Church, I picked back up on my childhood or practice, because Sufism explained what was going on in the church to me.
Really?
In other words, mysticism explained what the deeper practice that was going on in the church. At least that's how that was my experience anyway. And
sure.
I felt very sad that a Christian mystical experience wasn't more available.
Right.
It hadn't been for me. I know there's been Christian mysticism for very many years.
Sure.
I didn't invent it, but I couldn't find it. There wasn't a path of Christian mysticism that I could find.
Yeah.
And so, like a lot of people, I explored through yoga, meditation, and Buddhist meditation, and I explored Kabbalah,
right,
and Jewish mysticism, and spent quite a long period involved with that, and really value all of those things, and they're still present in my heart, and also my thinking,
right.
the way I interpret the world. But Sufism has been my working my workshop on myself, I suppose you could say. It's been where finally I came to rest, because there was a kind of method and a pathway which I could go deeply with, and that's still very important to me.
Sure, hon, sure. So do you feel like you were a mystic your whole life? I kind of feel that way.
What do you feel that way about yourself?
Yes. I mean, I've told this story many times, Joe. I got left back in the third grade because I couldn't stop humming Beatles songs. And the teacher would say, "Is someone singing in here?" And I'd be, "Na, na, 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 na." And they just thought, this kid needs a little help or something. So yeah, they plucked me out of my class, put me in another class. But that's one story of many of how, I've always felt wired a bit differently, more intuitive, more emotional. I grew up studying theater in my teenage years and really loved that, and films, and did a lot of reading of fiction and things like this. So when you're talking about, that absence of that mysticism, I'm thinking that must be because, I would imagine, because that's, you see that in yourself, or you're looking for that support about that in yourself.
Yes. I suppose the image which comes into my mind about myself as a child is spending a lot of time alone with nature, actually, and
Right.
kind of looking under logs to find to find bugs and things like that.
Good for
I
you.
was a very weird child, I understand.
Right. Well, you were in love with nature and the mystery of nature, and that's quite the mystic,
Yes, and there's a return, isn't there now, to an understanding of how important nature is, because we are nature as well.
Sure. Yes. Yes.
And and well, certainly Sufism um, and not enough in Christianity, I think, but certainly in Sufism, the book of nature is a very important
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah. Well, we were, of course, mentioning our buddy Rumi.
Yes,
Everyone falls in love with Sufism through Rumi. And
yes,
Rumi, of course, is the most popular poet in the world and has been for centuries, because he brings that love of the physical, or your beloved, or nature, and merges it with the divine, and the unknown and the mysterious and all that. And,
hmm
has a foot in each world. And
yes,
isn't it, and I think this is my experience, Joe, growing up Catholic, and leaving the church when I was 16, was
mm,
it was all very kind of empty ritual, and a lot of intellectual stuff, and lots of shoulds and supposed tos and ought tos, and
mm,
the guilt shame blame game is what my guides call this
yes,
way of thinking. So when those of us we're in our hearts, and we want to find God in our hearts and bring our hearts and God into the world, then we need to be explorers, like we both had to be.
yes, and yeah, I'm remembering as you talk that when I can't remember how old I would have been now, about maybe 8 or 7 or 8 or something like that. I created an altar in my
Great.
room,
Love it.
and it seemed just perfectly normal to me. And that I prayed at this altar,
Right. Right.
and I invited my parents to, come on, um,
Right.
let's do it together, kind of thing, because we
Right.
were going to church on a Sunday and things like that. And
Okay.
I couldn't really understand why they were so embarrassed.
They didn't know what to think. Oh my goodness.
No,
Right.
so
Right.
yeah, so that it's
Good for you. Good for you.
spirituality is a kind of weird thing, isn't it?
Well, it's very personal. There's nothing more personal, but at the age of 7 or 8, you're building your altar. I'd say you're drawing on a little previous experience there, would be my guess of things.
Yes, yes, thank God, yes.
Yes, yeah, yeah. And we were chatting before we turned on here, before we started recording, that both of us have become fans, if it's okay to say, this teacher, Patricia Coda Robles, and just kind of looking for, in the world of 2020, which you described as fantastic. And I thought that's a very brave description for this year. But it certainly is fantastic when, we rise to these challenges and help each other to have a bit of hope and a bit of faith and vision that there are reasons for what's happening. And she's certainly a guiding light for a lot of us to have that picture as well. So, I'd love to hear your take on what you feel is happening, and how you feel you're being guided to respond to that or help others respond. There's a
I think
softball question for you.
yeah, I was just like, does one start?
Well,
Um, I think I began the year, or at the beginning of, at the end of last year. I knew, thanks to an astrologer that I feel is a very wonderful one,
Yeah.
about the conjunctions this year, I think there's 6 major conjunctions. And I knew from her work that it was going to be a humdinger of a year, let alone if you just look out there and have a look at the environment and environmental degradation and rise in kind of anxiety in the world and
Sure.
conflict, poverty,
Sure.
etc., etc.
Sure.
But I obviously never expected
No.
this amazing virus to turn up. And there's somebody called Daniel Four. I don't know if you know
No.
him. I don't know him, but
No.
I was introduced to his work, and who does something called ancestor medicine. It's about working with the ancestors. And he described the virus as being, I think, something like this God walking the earth. There's a new God walking the earth, and that image really struck me. Because this tiny virus has such a big presence, and if it wasn't going to be a virus, I suppose something else would have happened. I feel.
I think that's a safe bet. Yes.
Yes. What I wasn't ready for, I think, at all, was the effect it had on me. The lockdown and the kind of being on retreat. I don't know how you experienced it, Lou.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it was like, and still is really up to a point, just an experience, a very deep experience of a very long retreat.
Sure. Sure, honey. Sure. Yeah.
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 Did you experience it the same?
The only difference in my life is I have to put a mask on when I go to the market. Honestly, as I said, I've been in Ireland for 13 years. I was traveling the country, mostly the county of Cork, where I landed eventually, and was doing classes, and then gave up my car, and then started to shift to do everything online. So as I said, I've been doing everything online. So really, my lifestyle hasn't changed that much, except like all of us, dealing with a lot of unknowns all of a sudden, and the idea of the future and the assumptions of the future and all of that getting, chucked out with the baby out with the bathwater, and suddenly we're in this whole new ball game. That, of course, has been very challenging.
Yes.
Yeah, myself included. So, I mean, like yourself, doesn't that these crises become opportunities, and eventually they become a gift when they help us to clean our side of the glass, is my analogy.
Yes. That's a very good analogy.
Thank you.
Well, certainly that's been my experience. It's been a major overhaul, internal overhaul, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And really an amazingly good thing.
Yes. Well, I mean, Joe, you've been doing retreats. As I mentioned, I've just finished this month of centering prayer, guided by Cynthia Bourget, who's fascinating. I got to see her live on Zoom here a couple nights ago, and was very impressed as well. So we did Thomas Keating's The Secret Embrace, his 8 poems there, and that he wrote at the end of his life, where before he passed at the age of 95. And this was 2 years ago, yeah. And she was saying in the final printout that we just read last night and this morning that in his passing, he actually was in a coma for 4 days, and then came out of his coma and said basically that the future of the planet was in silence and science. and we needed to get out of our heads, basically. And he was leaving this message in our heart and in our hands. And these are kind of his last words. And he said, and this is a message from the heart of God. And, no big deal. Holy cow, so I just read that, as I say, in the last day or so before, you and I get on here and chat for the first time and meet each other. So, I mean, you are someone who's done a lot of inner work, my friend, and has guided people to do a lot of inner work for quite some time. Isn't that right?
Yes, I've been involved in spiritual work as a learner, really, and through the Sufis have become a leader and a retreat guide.
Yeah.
There's a little Sufi community which doesn't live here, but usually comes here, I should say. We're now on Zoom, of course.
Yeah.
Up here, and I was involved with the healing aspect of the Inayatiya. And still am. So that's, and I've got a retreat space here, so I've been involved with leading retreats.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, there are many guides who lead a lot more retreats than I do, but yeah. So
you're in the game anyway, my friend. You're deep in the game, I'd say. Yeah.
Yeah.
And are people finding this much, as we were saying, because of the challenges of this year? People are, we're kind of on retreat, the whole world, with lockdowns and whatnot. So is there greater value and greater interest in these, in what you're sharing with people?
Yes, I think people are really very. I think everybody is going through a very deep process that I'm involved with, anyway, and really grateful for some kind of framework to hang that on.
Sure.
And some practice which can help keep centered,
mm-hmm.
and a community that one can process with. I think one of the most important things, most potent things, has been the opportunity to process what's going on in oneself and what's going on in the world.
Sure. To talk about it and feel it and be supported to, get in touch with our feelings and express them and share them.
Yes, yeah. And
beautiful.
Yeah, we had the Sufi community here. We had our first ever retreat online on Zoom, and that was a very deep retreat, and
wow.
It's an extraordinary that can happen online.
Yeah.
But the connection was not impaired by being online. That's for sure.
Sure. It's amazing. Necessity is the mother of invention, as they say, and
yes.
As it's wonderful when we can work with people physically, and we certainly, no one's ever going to take that for granted again, but it's not required, I'd say.
Yeah, and sorry.
No, that's it.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it kind of highlights, doesn't it, that the physicality of things is not the only place that things happen and where we connect.
Yeah.
There's
Do you have a favorite Rumi poem or something that's dear to your heart that you might share with us? I'm just being very spontaneous here. Forgive me. I don't mean to put you on the spot.
I couldn't recite it, but of course, the Rumi's poem, "The Guest House," is a wonderful, much quoted poem.
Yes.
The the poem which always comes to mind when I am put on the spot
Yes, dear.
is
Sorry.
actually a Hafiz poem.
Okay.
And I just remember the few words translated or interpreted anyway by Daniel Ladinsky. I don't know if you know.
No.
Oh, really, recommend.
Okay. Okay.
Hafiz interpreted or translated by Daniel
Oh,
Ladinsky.
okay. I'll get you to write that down for me, I think, so I can
Okay.
track it down if I would. Yeah.
Okay. It's just a few lines. It says, this place where you are right now, God circled on a map for you.
Wow, that's gorgeous. Yeah. 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 It's funny, Joe. This is very much what John and I have been talking about in looking at Thomas Keating's poetry and Cynthia's interpretations. Do you know Cynthia Bourget? Do you know of her writing?
I do.
Yeah,
I do.
yeah. I thought you would. She's very impressive, I have to say. There's a deep soul there. Wonderful and amazing use of words as well. Yeah, that that God does have a plan for all of us, and ours is to listen. We have one mouth and two ears, as the saying goes, and that's for a good reason. And I like that one. And as we take, what my guides, I have all these quotes. I'll send you a couple ebooks here. My guides say the secret is to go into peace as often and as deeply as possible. And as you can attain, sustain, and maintain your peace, then inspiration will find you and open the door to a brighter future. And so this is the work, is, we quiet the mind, we open the heart, and we awaken the spirit. And that's my joy and delight as well, my friend. And it's always an honor to connect with someone else who's given their life to this very humble and challenging path of shining your light and sharing your love, again, as my guides like to say. So
yes,
it's wonderful to connect with you.
Yes, and with you, Lou.
Thank you. Well, Cynthia, is there any, sorry, Joe, I'm distracted. I'm getting carried away here. Is there anything else you want to share with us, or tell us about your how people can find you at your retreat center? I do have people that follow me in Wales, so they'll be definitely interested in connecting with you.
Yeah, I think you've got my website,
yes,
for the Sufi work here in Wales, and that points to Christian mysticism as well, and the website of the school. And yeah, it would be wonderful if you were to make those available to other people.
Of course,
and I think particularly as both for the Sufi work, but also for the work of the school, we would really be very happy to have people's interest and support and prayers.
Sure, of course.
And
count on that. Yeah. Pleasure.
Yeah, and to make connections with other people who are involved, and
yes, on the path, as we say, my friend.
On the path.
Yes. Yeah, well, that's fantastic. And do you want to say anything about your two colleagues there, Vivian and Tim? Is it?
Yeah. Well, very much. Vivian is a Sufi friend of mine of long time ago, long history.
Yeah.
She's a wonderful teacher and leader, and she and I have led a lot of retreats together, using story as a framework for a retreat process.
Great.
And she has a very pure, clear tone in meditation, and that's great to be in touch with. And and she particularly brings a commitment to the feminine in Christianity. I think we all do that, but
Mm-hmm.
she is a driving force for us to reveal the involvement of Mary Magdalene and the
Right.
transmission of Mary Magdalene. So
Brilliant.
that's really important for us. And yeah,
I raise a glass to that, my friend. Sing a cheer for
yes.
that. Yes. Yes.
And Tim is a Anglican priest with a lot of parishes, as priests do here, and he's very unusual. He's heart-centered.
Right.
He's very mystically orientated, but also a lovely guy. He's pastorally very active, and he's a musician.
Ah, okay.
So he and he's very, very open.
Great.
So between well, they're very good teachers for me, and between the three of us, we're something's cooking.
Yes, I'm
Um,
sure. I'm sure it is. Yes.
yeah.
Yes. Has our friend Marianne been over to see your center or visit you yet?
Yes, she has. Yeah, some time ago,
Okay. Great.
she came over here,
Okay.
and
Good.
it's just my house plus a retreat space.
Great. Great. Well,
Yeah,
maybe I'll get to tag along with her someday.
please do.
Thank you. Thank
That'd
you.
be pleasant. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, I'd love to meet you and your friends there. I want to share with you my introduction to Rumi came through Robert Bly. Do you know
Oh
this
yes.
folks?
Mm-hmm.
So he's dear to my heart, and he's been one of my inspirations, particularly with the gathering of men and the mythopoetic men's movement, and the work of Michael Meade and people like this who've been bringing John O'Donoghue springs to mind,
Yeah.
Anna Cara,
Mm.
there, and you mentioned, Mary Magdalene and the divine feminine. This is a theme Lazarus, my teacher of 33 years, has been saying to us repeatedly. The goddess has not left, but she's returning.
Mm.
And so it's this decade. Just to say this to you, my friend, is definitely going to be the decade of the women and
Mm.
of women's voices and of the heart for men and children and women who are willing to open our hearts.
Mm-hmm.
That's my deep knowing and belief. And so again, from my heart to yours, my friend, it is a great joy to connect with you, and I thank you for sharing your time with me and your gifts today.
Thank you, Lou.
You're
It's
welcome.
been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, with that, I'll let you enjoy your evening, and please give my best to your colleagues there, and we'll put your links up, and we'll send lots of people to Wales. How's that sound?
Sounds amazing.
Okay. All right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you, darling. Peace and blessings. Have a wonderful evening.
And then you.
Okay. Well done.
Good.
Bye.